Mediopolis, Chapter 16, Show Sentences. Lucy was still sat with the mother in the interview room. She asked her, "How do all the namings work then in your family? I mean, what do I call you all? Just do I call them by the family name or..." Lucy had asked this to the mother, who wasn't sure how to respond at first. "Well, yeah, we all have our family names, yes, the mother's name that's chosen for them. That's only what the family uses, though. But in the show, they use the show names, names that they choose themselves," she said, trying to explain and make it clear for her. Many people still have the family names they use, even when there's a show name also. Those are just for the shows. But in their own family, they will use the family name. So it depends. If you're on the family show, then you use the family name because it's part of the family. We inherit those names, the names that I gave them are some of the names that I inherited. Some people have other names too, as well as the family name. The names are all chosen. Well, it's the parents that chose them. I chose them with the husband. They were chosen at an earlier age, when he was around, said the mother. And Lucy said that her name was just chosen by her parents, that she didn't have to choose any later show name. There was no such thing for her to decide upon. "Well, I never name names at birth, not show names," said the mother. "You can't give show names when they're that young. It's only when they're old enough to talk themselves. That's when they name their own names. That's when you know what their names are," said the mother. Marvelled to think about it. Marvelled that other people didn't really have that same custom as her, because that's what she was used to herself. The custom of the foreigners, to name their babies, as she and her family never did. Yes, they had names that only the family gave them, but they'd never be referred to outside, not to outsiders that didn't know the family themselves. Yet watching about these people, and meeting about them too, it was a different matter entirely. "What do the babies actually get called then?" asked Lucy to the mother, thinking it was strange that they shouldn't have names when they're outside the house, as if somehow perhaps they would just be given a label or something. But the mother said that they would just be referred to as her child, since she would always be with them, accompanying them when they were outside the house. Why do you have, I mean, why do your babies have to have just only their names? Why do you have to have these other show names? Why can't you just use their original names, the family name, in the show though? Lucy had asked this to the mother, as she was somehow confused by that, why they had to have multiple names. And the mother had explained that it just wasn't appropriate or suitable for outsiders who they didn't know that could be viewing those public shows to know what their personal, private, family names were. It was only really necessary for the family to know the family names, reasoned the mother. "Well, you know, so you know who you're talking about. It's easier just have one name, so it's the same name, I guess," said Lucy. "But you get used to having the different names and knowing when and how to use them," said the mother. "Do your mothers have lots of babies then? Lots of twins and triplets or quadruplets, so that it's difficult to know who you're talking about or something?" Lucy had asked this, still a bit unsure, confused why there were two Kits in the house, and then both the mother and one of her children, one of the young middle-aged sons, also had the same name. They were both Dannys. Why were there so many, or two at least, with the same name? That seemed odd to her. "Well, no, some people do have twins and triplets, quadruplets, as you say, but that's quite rare, really. Hardly happens at all. No more than your world, I suppose, really. No, we just give the old show names that people choose. It's just so that when people are talking about the baby to others, then they know the baby's name. To a nurse or pediatrician or doctor or whoever else, they would simply know it as the child of the parent who'd be with them, accompanying them up to a certain age. Or when they get to an older age, by that time they're already on the shows anyway, so they already have their own nicknames, their friendly names For the friendly show names, they're on those at an early age, explained the mother. So they'll have chosen an early friendly name that they use with their other friends in the friend shows. And so it's generally that name when they go off to see professionals or that they need to, or the tutors at college, in the college shows, then they'll use their own friendly names. The names that they use on the friend shows, those are just the chosen names. The friends sometimes choose them for them. They often choose them with their friends together, in some of the friend shows. That's how they start the friend shows, in fact. They kind of experiment choosing names for and with each other. That's how they do it, really. Well, that's how my children have. I'm not saying all the show children are like that. Some of them will want to choose their own names. Others choose names with their friends too. And a few of them ask me about it too. But it's just not necessary for the younger children to have different names. They don't have any show names, just the personal, private names. And there's no need for us to tell anyone else outside the family that, explained the mother now. When I went to hospital, she went on, finally, for the children's births, those that are biological to mine, I just told them my name, and they had a record of just my name with the child at the time. Well, I only had one child at a time that I needed to take in, declared the mother. I took the babies into the doctors and the young children when they were older, and they didn't really need to know a specific name for them. They knew my name, and then they knew that it was my child, and there was only one child at a time I was concerned for that they were looking at. I called them young, the young one, or one of the younger ones, the one that happened to be with me, as they were just too young to have names. Well, I made up names for them because I was forced to give them names at the time. And I just made up whatever names I felt were suitable at that occasion, but they never used those, not regularly, and neither did I, said the mother. I could have called them baby or toddler or young one or something, but I didn't do that, of course. I had to find a name that they just felt right for them, something that acted as them, something that was right for them, that they felt comfortable with, that's all, said the mother, still finding it bizarre that naming a baby should be done by other people. How can you name them without even getting to know them when you don't know anything about them to begin with? You don't know how they move or what abilities they are, what interests they are, what disabilities they have yet, or what gifts they have either. You only know some of those things, but you've only just begun to explore and find out all those abilities. Because it's only at a younger, later age, an older, later age, when you really get to discover more truly what someone's fuller abilities really are, explained the mother. Do your people think they are prophets, or they know the child's future somehow and they can predict what their future abilities might be, or what their future profession might be, or what their future moods or temperaments could be? I mean, how do they know at a later age, so many years ahead, what their true nature would be? Asked the mother, now uncertain about the whole idea of giving a name to a child you've given birth to, but who you haven't yet bonded with, who you haven't really emotionally attached and known for that long. Not known outside of yourself, not known to see how they get along in the house, with you, with others in the family, and with the world, not knowing any of those things. To give them a name without knowing anything about them? It seemed bizarre and strange to her that people still did that. But everyone had their different customs, and she respected those that had their different ways still. But did question Lucy, still out of curiosity for it. Well, Lucy had said many mothers and families did try to give a name that perhaps had some meaning to their place and time, to the family in particular, perhaps to the father or to the mother or to their family's ancestry, or perhaps to the place that they lived. It might have some special purpose to the time as well as the place and the family. That was rare that you give something just according to their baby's appearance or how they actually moved or what their ability was. People maybe adapted the name later on according to that, or maybe made up a new nickname or a funny name at an older age, Lucy admitted, but it wasn't really an official thing that was done that much by people, not unless they really had to, saying it was perhaps what the mothers or parents hoped the child to be. That's what the name was based more upon. also upon something that had meaning to the parents. It was still down to the parents' choice, and the child would later adapt those names to what they felt more comfortable with until they were perhaps older themselves. But even then, very rarely would an adult choose an altogether different name to announce to people in a public place. Still, they discussed the differences that they each had with each other. Feeling that a person with a lovely sounding name is more likely to be loving, perhaps, and someone with a horrible name that provokes horrible feelings might get a bad reputation and a name to beware of. And so maybe that was more of a consideration also about how the name sounded to the public, to many others, what the name's current popularity, what its social appeal was. That was also of consideration, Lucy had said. And the mother said, yes, of course, that was a big part of the show naming as well at an older age. Not just a difficult choice for young parents, but why it was that the children didn't give